Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Tracey C. Jones at Tremendous Leadership. Today is one of my favorite days. It is new release day, and today I am here with one of our tremendous new authors, a fellow business coach, colleague, now personal friend, and author, Eric Zichterman. Eric, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric. The title of Eric's book is called Performance Driven Leadership: Forging High Performance Teams Through Communication, Coaching, and Culture. So I know you're super excited about this. So I always like to tell people how I met all these incredible, tremendous authors that we have the honor of publishing. And I met Eric through the PBCA, the Professional Business Coaching Alliance. Eric, I think it was 2 years ago, well,
I
kind of
believe
two and
so.
a half years ago, 2024, and went down there through Jim Peterson, who those of you that are affiliated with the CPBL, the Certified Professional Business Leader course. So I met Eric there, and we had a delay in that. What was DFW, right? And so we were hanging out in the lounge, and he was talking about, hey, this leadership course I'm teaching. And so Eric signed up for that because he's a leader, as you're going to hear all about that. And then as he was going through that, he's like, Tracy, I got this book because most leaders do have a great book in them. Fast forward, here we are. I saw him at the conference again last year, and we're about 5 months into this. You're ready to launch your book. And for those of you listening, if you are listening to this, that means Eric's book is out. So, Eric, again, just honored to have you here. Love to hear your thoughts about the book and the whole entire book writing process, because I know a lot of leaders are out there thinking, man, I'd like to do this. The other thing about Eric is he's in the construction industry. And as somebody who just is a project manager at heart with all tradespeople of all different levels and skills, from aircraft to facilities to hospitals to you name it. I was like, oh boy, I love me some project management books on leadership. And so, Eric, that brings us to this. So, I want to take our fans to the beginning of the book. You have an opening story, and you talk about how you started pouring concrete at the ripe age of 18 years old, and you worked for 11 years with a guy named Chad, and then you eventually built your own company, which we're going to talk more about. So, can you take us back to the phone call from your brother that started it all?
Oh, yeah. So at the time I was working for my uncle and family. They owned a hotel and convention center here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And a hotel I grew up in. The idea was, I was going to take it over. I have a couple of cousins, both females, didn't have any interest to do anything with the hotel. So I was the kind of the next in line and really being groomed for that position. And I got a call. It was probably after Mother's Day or Easter. We're really slow at that time. It kind of transitioned between wedding season and those holidays there and Christmas parties. And my brother's like, "Hey, you gotta come help us out. Like we need the help. I was like, "Well, I'm kind of slow right now, so perfect timing." And I fell in love with it. I just the sense of accomplishment that I got at the end of the day after pouring concrete was you could see what you did. You could look and see
Yeah.
it, and it was so rewarding.
Excellent. And you did that, you said, for 11 years?
I worked for Chad for 11 years.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yes.
Before I made that hard decision to move on to another
Yeah, I love that.
company.
And I get that. I mean, there is something about trades and manual work that it's just like, oh, I think that's why I love project management. You got this kind of bias for action, and you get stuff done. And for those of us that are operationally gifted, it certainly is a fulfilling career. And then you also talk in the opening of the book about telling your wife that you wanted to start a concrete company when you had a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old at home. What did she say?
Are you nuts? I'm pretty sure it was just those. Are you nuts? Like we have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old, and it was just one of those things that, like, I was at that time in my life where I needed more. Like I loved where I was working. Still good friends with that owner, but I needed that extra little bit. Like I'm just one of those guys that has to go for more, and at that moment it was sink or swim, right? And
Yeah.
chose to swim.
Yeah, I love that. And one of those guys that you're coded to go for more. I love it. And you talk about, again, forging high performance teams through communication, coaching, and culture. And now that I know more about you, why those three things? I mean, we don't always think about as communication, yes, in project management and the trades, but coaching and culture aren't always things that you think about when you're thinking about the blue collar workforce.
So I take from my experience with it, and I don't want to say lack of communication, but the issues that I've seen with communication amongst teams,
Mhm.
especially in the construction field, right? And then you build that into the culture aspect. A lot of company, I mean, the trades are, it's a, I don't want to say a rough industry, but it's culture's kind of a sensitive word, and for our industry it doesn't have to be that way. You
Right.
can build an amazing culture within a construction organization. A lot of my clients are doing that, and it's so rewarding to see. And I think the high performing team, they come with those things, right? And the coaching aspect of it as well is I somebody who just got thrown to the wolves or threw himself to the wolves and figured it out. But having that coaches available to me and working with coaches, that was hands down the best decision I ever made.
And we're going to talk
I
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on. And what did you get when you were working with them? Did you get to work with them as you were growing the company with the coaches?
Yeah. So I mean, beyond joining a peer group was the first thing I did, and that was amazing. I
Right.
had I had my core group of other companies across the country. We had our open table discussions, and then eventually went on to having individual coaching as well. And again, somebody to talk to. I don't want to say it's a business therapist, but a lot of times that's what we do as coaches. We are their business therapists. So
And how did you, when you started that? Because again, coaching now is so, I love that it's evolved to being leadership. And now it used to be, well, you're a coach or you're a leader, and they're kind of like, dichotomous. And now it's like, no, they're together. How did you know in the construction industry that you should get with peer coaches? Because I know when I was in it, that was probably one of the last things that would have dawned on me.
I think really when it hit me was when I first showed up to the very first peer group, young, I don't know whatever, mid 30s at this time, young 30s, thought I had life figured out, thought I'm a successful business owner, I'm growing this business, we're doing great, and I realized I knew nothing. I thought I had it figured out. I knew nothing. And that to me is when it,
Nice.
it was it was just a powerful moment.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And you talk about something called the power trap, the idea that position isn't leadership. And a lot of times the guy that who's the foreman or gets picked to be whatever is the guy that can, has the biggest boot or the biggest bicep. But you say that position isn't leadership. What does that look like on the job site?
Yeah, so many I I don't know, growing up in the industry, I've seen far too many people that I just want to be a foreman. I want to have they're chasing a title.
Yeah.
Titles mean nothing
Yeah.
if you can't hold up your end to that title. If you can't
Mm,
lead people, if you can't grow people, sure, you could be a foreman, you could be a superintendent. Great. What does it mean? It's a word. But what is the true meaning behind that? So I have, yeah, it talks about position and power and how we need to actually, I mean, you could be a CEO of a company. What does it mean if you don't grow your team, right?
right.
So that's really what it really comes down to.
And I love that you are at the foreman level. It's about growing people. I don't care if you're in a trades field, a technical field, a pure operations field. It's still about getting the job done through growing people. And and
And
I
I
and I love that.
And I would say it's even beyond the foreman level. Like even if it's just in the concrete world, a finisher or a laborer, they can grow the
Right.
person below them. I,
Yeah.
I I tell people that all the time. Train the person below you to take your position. It's
Mm.
always about growing, and that's what leadership is.
I love it. So now talking about foremen, you tell a story about a foreman that you had to let go. And it meant losing 7 employees. We've all been through this because the whole family worked for you. I remember one time I worked at a job site and they said, don't say anything about anybody because there's 3 families and everybody's a member of one of those families. So just zip it. So can you walk us through that decision? Because I know a lot of people on sites get hired because of family members.
Yeah, so at this moment, I was working with a one-on-one with a coach in addition to my peer groups,
Mhm.
and had a lot of conversations leading up to this moment that we ended up letting this individual go. And a lot of it really developed over the wintertime. I was able to buy a little bit of time with having wintertime layoff. I think he had taken a couple of weeks or a month off to go on vacation somewhere. And in that moment was probably the way the year ended was revisiting how that year ended with him and making that next step or having that next step to decide what we want to do. And then the conversations leading up to it with the other coach saying, gosh, this is what I think is going to happen. And it was really, it came down to fear, right? The
Yeah.
false expectations appearing real. We had the fear that, oh, this is going to be the end of the world. Our business is going to kick. You know what? It wasn't.
Hmm.
It sometimes positive growth comes from, you know, stepping
Pruning.
back
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah, that is growth. And yeah, I'm for those of you out there, if you haven't been through this, you probably will. So Eric has some great insights in this. And you also write about outgrowing clients. This is really
Mhm.
important too, that some of the people who were perfect when you were small became a burden as you grew. And how does a leader know when it's time to let a client go?
I think in my instance, I guess, or my thoughts on this were really when as we continued to grow, um, we had clients that, we could drop what we were doing and move over there. It wasn't, we weren't 50 people deep. It was maybe we were 15. It was a little easier to manipulate schedules and get get a crew over there to help them out. But
Yeah.
as we continued to grow and our workforce developed, we weren't able to do that.
Mm.
And then those clients, oh, hey, this isn't the service that we've expected from you. And all of a sudden maybe they want to start beating you up on price and they're beating you up on change orders and it just at that time you have to make that tough call and sometimes fire a client. And
Mhm.
that's tough for people. Oh, I don't want to get rid of my clients, but no, sometimes that's growth too. You
Well,
have
and
to.
you say that. There's a line in the book that says growth sometimes requires subtraction. I think about that. We're in spring and I'm out pruning and whacking. Why? Because of new growth. So what does that mean to you? Growth sometimes requires subtraction,
Well,
especially
let's
when you're
go
trying to
back.
grow. You don't want to let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, well, go back to eliminating that or the foreman, having that tough conversation, right? So we subtracted 7 people in that moment, and then ended up, our existing crew they were happy. They were like, "This is
Mhm.
great. I've got these other people I'm going to bring in. This is, everybody was excited and re-energized, just like you said. When we cut the dead growth off in the spring, what do we get? We get new blooms, right? So
Yeah.
that sometimes subtraction's not a bad thing, and in certain other cases too, it can allow you to refocus on how you want to grow your business in a different way. Maybe
I love
you,
it.
yeah, it just better opportunities.
Yeah, and I love that when you talk about that, you don't just go growth, you go back and look at how you want to grow in a different way. And I
Mhm.
think, I mean, that really struck me as a business owner. I know how my dad grew it, and yes, that's great, but how do I want to grow it? In what
Mhm.
different places? And so you got to be really intentional about that and willing to take something off in order to get that. So I know that section was very much spoke to me. Eric, at the end of each of the books, chapters, you have practical takeaways, which I love because I love application, right? We're practitioners. If you can't apply it, it's like it never even happened. So you have a section titled Leadership Builder at the end of each chapter. And if a construction leader picks up the book and applies one thing, what do you think it should be?
Well, if it's one thing, I think the book is so broad with the many chapters I have. So I'm hoping that if they could just pick up one thing, one little nugget, whether it be in whatever chapter it is, that is, I guess, in the whole the grand scheme of things, that's what I just hope they could pick up one little nugget out of the
Mhm.
entire book.
Yeah.
Um, and what that should be, it may be situational. But I think the biggest thing is know that there's many more of us out there going through the exact same thing, and there's always somebody to talk to in those instances, whether it's a peer group or another coach.
And I want to talk about your groups at the end because I know you're jetting off to Florida to meet with one of them tomorrow. Um, Eric, what do you think the biggest mistake, because you've lived it, what's the biggest mistake you see construction leaders make and how do they fix it?
I think the biggest. it's fear. I think we all have fear, fear
Yeah.
of the unknown,
Yeah.
maybe self-doubt.
Mm.
These are all things we go through. But I think at the end, we all have that gut feeling and we know what the right thing is, and we need to follow that. We need to follow our heart. And uh, I truly think that's how they fix it. Follow your heart, you
Yeah.
know? You
Yeah.
know what's right.
Well, and I love that you said fear because we're going to make mistakes. I mean, I think back to all the different things where I was like, well, I'm going to have to do something and I'm going to do this. And inevitably in the hot wash or, whatever, reflecting back, why did this? Well, I don't know, but I did something and now we can talk about it and talk about what's going to happen next time. But I think, especially for the construction people, we can't sit around and analysis paralysis is not an option.
Yeah.
We have schedules, we have teams, we have money, bids, scope of work, and scheduling logistics and materials. You got to make it happen. So I love that you really talked about the fear because you think, um, really, construction people are fearful, and yeah, but you just got to do it, and you're gonna maybe make some mistakes, but
Yeah.
then just do a change order and or escalate or fix it.
Well, and I think learning from our mistakes, right? We're not going to get it perfect. Like you said, we're not always going to get everything right. And as long as we can take and apply what we've done in the past, and
Yeah,
maybe you need to replicate it moving forward, maybe you don't. But as
right.
long as we can learn from what we've done and move forward in a positive light, that's what we need to do.
Well, and then you talked about having the right team. And what I really like about operations, and particularly in construction, is, the leader really can't do it on their own. You know what I'm saying? You have
Mhm.
everybody out there, boots on the ground, touching things, maneuvering things in risky situations, life and death situations that if they don't do it right. And so everybody has to be really all in engaged. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about it. And I think this book can really, when you talk about the culture, the coaching and the culture, not just the communication is so valuable.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. So, Eric, if you were sitting next to somebody on the plane tomorrow and they say, you wrote a book, who's this book for? Should I get this book? Who's this book for? And is there anybody it's not for?
I'm going to say this, even though I've lived in the construction world, this book isn't just for construction
Right.
individual. It could be uh, beyond all the trades, manufacturing, industrial, mining, and honestly, even into the white collar world, let's say,
Yep.
if you lead a team, you can apply. I don't care what industry I'm in. I can tie my industry in construction back to an office industry. It doesn't matter. We all run teams. Sure, it's a different environment, but we all run teams and we all deal with people and we all, at the end of the day, deal with the same sorts of issues. So sure, it's construction focused, and that's a lot of the experiences lived in the book are from mine in the construction world. But at the end of the day, really, it's for anybody who is an aspiring leader, is a leader who maybe could find a little nugget in there that maybe something they didn't think of. So,
Well, and I look back at some semiconductor industry, publishing industry, high tech industry, service contracts, everything, and project managers is project manager. I think Charles's life is tremendous. Well, that was from his growing his insurance business, but yet anybody can read that and see and take those leadership tips. But I really love the title, performance-based leadership, because
mhm.
yes, we want to bring out the best in people, but in the end, what is it? However beautiful the plan, we have to occasionally look at the results. I don't know if Patton said that or whatever. It's all about performance-based, especially in your industry. You got to get it right and you got to get it done.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that emphasis on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And then now, Eric, you are a coach yourself through something called the Freedom Forge Group. What do you want readers to feel when they finish the last page?
Inspired. Probably the number one word. When I speak at the World of Concrete, that's the biggest thing I want people to feel at the end of a presentation or in this book is inspired. Inspired to go back and make a slight change, make a slight tweak to whatever it is, maybe their team, maybe I want them to go back and feel energized and inspired to just build the best in class business they can build.
Best in class business. I love that. And then you have a whole chapter on golf, the 19th hole. What does golf teach you about leadership, other than that you shouldn't cuss too much? But maybe if you're on the construction site, that doesn't, I don't know.
I tie golf back to business a lot, and it comes down to and honestly, this came back from I was in my last peer group was in Nashville, and we were on the golf course, and one of the clients was there, and he had a bad swing, and oh, it's just I haven't played in a while, or what whatever it was. And I said, but just like business, I said, you're not going to just be natural at it. We have to work at it. We have to take those progressive steps to get better, and we have to focus. And so, rather than just getting up there and swinging a club, let's stop. What is our focus? Let's look at the shot. I'm not great at golf. I love the game. I'm not great at it. Some days I am, I guess, but not really. But it's just golf and business are so similar. If you can just stop, step back, and take a look at it.
Mm.
That's the biggest connection I feel like. It's when I'm out there and going here on Wednesday to play golf again with the peer group guys, and let's take a step back, let's look at our shot, let's think about what we're doing. You don't have to, granted, you still have to swing, right? We have to make that decision.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be, you're not going to be perfect at it every time, and that's okay.
I love it. I love it. And then you talk about where the book ends, building beyond the blueprint. What does that phrase mean for you personally?
I think it means building yourself, right? Never stop growing, never stop learning. When you think you have it figured out, you're wrong. I, just like I was when I went into that peer group and I thought I had it figured out. It's continual growth, continual learning, even to this day. I mean, I still go to the peer groups, not for for myself though. I learn and grow so much from my clients and those things, and going to the PBCA conferences and going to it's just, if you've got to continue to grow. So building beyond the blueprint is, how do we continue to build ourselves, build our teams? It's not about just building projects. How do we
Mm.
continue to build them into better people, the best team we can have, right?
I love it. I love it. And Eric, I love that. Build people, not just projects. Oh man, that's really good. So Eric, tell people, I mean, everybody's going to get the book if it's out and you're going to learn about this. How do you want to get the message out there? Yeah, I know you said you spoke at the World of Concrete. That's awesome. I bet you were like the big concrete king there. But where else are you speaking at conferences? Uh, where do you want to see your message get out in case there's somebody listening that's in the trades or construction? Do you want to speak? Do you want to coach? Do you want to get them in your peer advisory groups? What are your thoughts, or where's your focus?
Yeah, so a lot of my focus is I love the peer groups. I love the collective learning. When you can
Yep.
have, I mean, because I don't have all the answers. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to have all the answers. I can give you what comes to my mind, but to be able to have 10 or 15 other business owners going who maybe have gone through that same
Mhm.
situation or are going through it, to also chime in, that's the power, that the collective wisdom that I love, and why I love these peer groups. The other side of it is, I'm very involved with the Concrete Paving Association, whether it's American Concrete Paving Association or Iowa Concrete Paving Association, where I'm at, the AGC, a lot of those organizations. I do a lot with those, and how can I help them as well? So.
Yeah, excellent. And do you coach people one-on-one or businesses one-on-one, or do you recommend bringing them into your peer group?
I do a little bit of both. I do
Okay.
some one-on-one coaching,
Hmm.
and but I do a lot more of the peer group coaching.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of training with companies, in their off season.
Yep.
That's another thing. And whether it's safety and leadership, that I love it. I love getting in front of their teams and being able to work with them. maybe there's 60 or 80 people in a room. It's perfect. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. And so I want to bring that out to our audience too. If you're listening, you're going to get the book, but also if you need a speaker or a trainer on safety or leadership, Eric's definitely, I love it. And I love that you love the collective wisdom. There's some coaches that get that, but you really get it and you live it and stick with it. So I really respect that about you. So Eric, anything else? How was the publishing journey for you?
Publishing was great. It's probably my own journey of time, and this whole process, it has been honestly self-discovery, right? We talk about building beyond the blueprint. I didn't know that I loved to write until I actually was on the road traveling and had quite a bit of time to myself and just started to put thoughts to paper and realized that this is something I really enjoy. And even as of last week, I know we're working on this book, but I'm on to my second one, and I was able to get through two more chapters last week on the road. It's something that was I didn't I honestly I hated language arts when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
I love writing.
Yeah.
I do.
And like you said, there's so many different tools now when you just, everybody's like, oh, I just don't know if I can do it. Oh yeah, you can. It's just getting with the right team
Yes.
and just but you got to carve out time for it like everything
Yes.
else. And you did that. And folks, by the time Eric had sent me the manuscript, I'm like, well, you had done you obviously had spent a lot of time working on it, and so anxious to see the second one. And I know
Yes.
he's encouraging his daughter too. She's an
Yes.
aspiring author, so that's exciting that she sees her dad doing this too. So Eric, like I said, for our listeners out there, please make sure and support Eric. His book is Performance Driven Leadership, Forging High Performance Teams Through Communication, Coaching, and Culture. You'll want to get it. Lots of chapters, lots of different exercises in there. And like I said, no matter your industry, I think anybody in any kind of project manager or operations, anything is going to, running an office, a credit union, whatever, is going to see a lot of great skills in this. Because in the end, you really get down to it's anybody can run a project, but getting people to do and growing them, that's what it's all about. And
Mhm.
your heart and your humbleness and what you've learned is really all across this book.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Eric. All right, listeners out there, thank you so much. Remember, as Charlie T. Jones said, you're going to be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. And you're going to read Performance Driven Leadership. And you've just met the tremendous Eric Zichterman. So already your life is infinitely more tremendous. So thanks, everybody. If you like what you heard today, please be sure and share this with somebody you think may find this book of value. And as Eric says, they're going to want to go away from this inspired. So, Eric, thank you again. Everybody, have a tremendous rest of your day.
Thank you.